All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Appeals Committee meeting. As this is the first meeting of this calendar year for this committee, I will be starting it as the committee clerk. Before we get started, I just want to confirm that we do have quorum. We are currently missing Mr. Storms, who has indicated that he's going to send his regrets. He might be on a little bit later, but at this point it is regrets at this time. Joining us from staff are Lisa Capner-Hunt, Director of Building and Enforcement, Dan Hazel, Supervisor, Licensing and Enforcement, Andrew Reeson, Senior Legal Counsel, Ian Sullivan is our meeting host, and I am Elizabeth Fawcett, the committee clerk. And we don't currently have any members of the public watching from the gallery, but we do have Mr. and Ms. Hall here as the appellants on the matter for this afternoon. So with that, I'll go into the election of officers. If I could get a nominee for the role of chair, please. Ms. Wallace.
I would like to nominate Councillor Hutchison as chair.
Okay, excellent. Councillor Hutchison, do you accept?
I will.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder for this? Councillor McLaren, thank you. Are there any other nominees for the role of chair? Seeing none, I will close nominations and call the vote. All those in favor for Councillor Hutchison as chair? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Mr. Chair, would you like me to run for the vice chair elections, or would you?
I can go through it if you like.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, so have we any nominations for the position of vice chair? Councillor McLaren.
I'll nominate Ms. Wallace.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Mr. Knox will second. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the nominations. And all those in favor of Ms. Wallace as vice chair, please vote now. Okay, so that's passed unanimously as well. So without any more ado, I'll call this meeting to order. The first, the item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Get a mover for the agenda. Ms. Wallace, second by Mr. Knox. I don't believe, are there any additions, subtractions? Seeing none, I will call for a vote on the agenda, please. All those in favor? That passes. Item 5, disclosure, confirmation of the minutes of August the 16th. Mr. Knox moves that move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor McLaren. Any additions, subtractions to that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. Item 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does anyone have any declarations? Seeing none, move on to 6, delegations. We have none. Briefings, we have none. And that arises item 7, business, 8A, new appeals. And the first one up is Madam Clerk, do you want me to announce the deferral first or before we get into this item? Or
Mr. Chair, we can address the first business item, and then once we get to the second one, we can address the adjournment.
It's been done both ways in committee, so I was curious. Okay, that's fine. So item AI or 1 is 1664 Code Street. So it asks staff to, this is about the refusal of a short-term rental license. So I'd ask staff to explain their position, please.
Thank you, Your Chair. I would ask the committee clerk to load our presentation materials. Thank you for doing that, clerk. I will run the committee through a quick PowerPoint presentation on the 1664 Code Street short-term rental operator license application. And upon completion of the presentation, happy to answer any questions and go forward from there.
Fair enough.
Next slide, please. So short-term rental licensing history overview. Sorry, I'm just changing my screen. I'm just unable to see my PowerPoint presentation, that's all. There it is, thank you. So council has approved the short-term rental licensing bylaw, which came into effect this year on June 1st, 2021. The short-term rental bylaw created a program to license and regulate short-term rental properties within the city of Kingston in order to provide a safe and healthy variety of accommodation options to support Kingston's tourist industry, and while allowing residents to use their properties to earn additional income to offset their housing cost. Short-term rental regulations help protect the community's existing inventory of long rental housing and aid in responding to health and safety and nuisance controls related to excessive noise, garbage, parking, and security issues. Short-term rentals provide sleeping accommodations for a period equal to less than 30 consecutive days in exchange for payment. Next slide, please. Short-term rental licenses are valid from 365 days from the date they are issued, and each license must be renewed on the date of expiration or the last date that the license is in effect. The license fee for a short-term rental license is $180. Every application for a new license or a renewal of an existing license shall be submitted to the division in a form prescribed by the director. Every application for a new license or renewal of an existing license shall be accompanied with the full license fee as set out in the fees and charges bylaw. And as mentioned above, it's $180 per license. The division shall review each completed application in accordance with section 6 of the STR bylaw and shall grant or refuse to issue a license and shall notify the applicant of its decision in writing. Next slide, please. Any person seeking to obtain or renew a short-term rental license under the bylaw 2021-10, section 5 shall be the intended operator of the short-term rental, be the registered owners of the short-term rental as identified on the parcel register form from the land registry office, complete an application in the form prescribed by the director, including setting out such information and attaching such additional documents as may be required by the director, submit a complete application to the city's licensing and enforcement division, and pay the applicable fee as prescribed by the fees and charges bylaw. Next slide, please. The short-term rental license shall be issued or renewed to any person who meets the requirements of the bylaw, except where these following conditions. Except where the past conduct of the person affords reasonable grounds that the person has not or will not carry on the short-term rental business in accordance with the applicable bylaw. Except where the issuance of a license to a person could be adverse to the public interest. Except where the lot or building in which the short-term rental operates is subject to an order under the property standards bylaw, the BCA or building code, the FFPA or fire code, KFLNA public health, MECP, which is Ministry Environment Conservation and Protection, or is not in compliance with the applicable zoning bylaws. The operator or lot on which the short-term rental is situated is indebted to the city by way of fines, penalties, judgments, and or outstanding past due property municipal combination taxes. Next slide, please. So that first phase of the presentation was just an overview of the short-term rental licensing process. Now we're going to move into the short-term rental application that's before the appeals committee today. Today, the application and the appeal is from Stephen Hull and Ann Hall. The where is 1664 Code Street, Kingston, Ontario, and the postal code is K7L5H6. The initial date of submission was May 20th, 2021 via email. And there is just some quick photographs showing the front and side of the property. Next slide, please. This slide is the most important part of the application as it relates to the outcome. This is section C of the property information that was submitted by the applicants to the city of Kingston with their initial application. It's also in your full package in the agenda. You'll see this on section C of the application that was submitted to the committee. The following information was submitted by the applicant under Section C of Property Information. The type of home to be rented would be a single home. Will the property be rented by? And the question here is bedrooms or entire house, and the applicant selected entire house. Total number of existing bedrooms are 3. Total number of bedrooms to be rented was 3. Numbers of basement rooms that exist was 1. And how many guests / persons will rent the short-term rental at one time? And that was indicated as 1 to 6 persons. The applicants or the Halls advised that they would be living in the dwelling at the time of renting. Based on that, therefore, they would be renting by room. The Halls advised that they wanted to rent up to 6 persons. I just wanted to highlight those 2 points for the committee as it relates to the property information. Next slide, please. Items in violation of the bylaw. So based on the application submission and comparing it to section 7.1 of the short-term rental bylaw, which states 7.1, subject to section 7.2 below, a short-term rental shall have A, no more than 3 rooms individually rented, and B, sleeping accommodation for a maximum of 4 individuals. And then section 7.2 of the bylaw states, section 7.1 of the bylaw does not apply to a short-term rental that consists of an entire single detached dwelling unit rented under a single booking. So in essence, the bylaw requires the numbers of persons renting to be capped at 4 persons when renting rooms for sleeping accommodations. Any number of persons in excess of 4 would not meet the current requirements of the short-term rental bylaw and would be out of scope for the bylaw. Next slide, please. So based on these facts, we've come to the outcome of this application. The application that was submitted was reviewed, and it was determined that it is outside the scope of the short-term rental bylaw. The application cannot be accepted or approved as it's currently submitted. What we would require to get on to the next step would be a revised application indicating the maximum number of 4 persons renting not more than 3 bedrooms, or alternatively, the rental of the entire unoccupied dwelling is required to advance the short-term rental application further. The applicant was notified various times in October 2021 of the results via phone call, in-person meetings, and emails. As of November 4th, 2021, a revised application had not been received by the licensing service. And on November 5th, 2021, the notice of refusal of short-term rental was issued to the applicants. That is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. So any questions from the committee? Mr. Knox.
For clarification, 3 bedrooms in the single unit, the owners will be occupying also within the single unit?
For this particular application, the applicants indicated that they reside at this dwelling so they would be included in the single dwelling numbers.
So in other words, to clarify, are there 2 bedrooms available for short-term rental?
The first part of your question cut out. I apologize.
For clarification, if there's 3 total, then 2 would be available for rental of the 3?
So the way the regulation is worded, you cannot have more than 3 rooms individually rented for a maximum of 4 individuals.
Right. But are the owners occupying a 4th bedroom? Is there a 4th bedroom in the home?
I believe this property only has 3 rooms in the property.
3 bedrooms, right?
Correct, 3 bedrooms.
Yeah, I think we have to be really clear about that.
It appears that there's 2 bedrooms on the main floor and 1 bedroom in the ground level in the basement.
Okay, and for clarification, the owners, and I know we'll be speaking to them in a minute, are also occupying within the same dwelling.
To my knowledge, that is the case, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee at this time? There'll be opportunity later, as the committee well knows. Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Hall, would you like to respond to the presentation? In particular, I think you should start out by telling us, are you intending or are you living, are there 3 bedrooms in the unit and are you occupying one of them?
I think it's a bigger explanation than that. The house has evolved since 1988. Okay, at one time it was a seniors lodge. I had a letter.
Sir, we want to make sure that what staff are saying is correct in your view.
There's 6 bedrooms.
There are 6 bedrooms in this unit.
Yeah.
We live in one half, which is now not deemed as a duplex. This building was operated as a duplex since 1995.
Okay.
It is now, so technically with the removal of the second range, there's no second kitchen. We live in the attached portion, which itself has 3 bedrooms, but is interconnected to the original bungalow shown in the sketch.
Yes.
With a door.
And do you have kitchen? You do. Okay, my understanding of what you just said is that there is no kitchen facilities in the section that you live in or the renters live in.
And we live in.
There is
So
no
you have
range.
you have no kitchen facilities in your portion.
I have no range.
I have no range, which is the legal definition of a kitchen.
The building
Right.
department made me remove it.
We have a wet bar, which has a fridge, a sink, and it has other means of cooking, but it has no range, which is the legal definition of a kitchen. We
Right.
removed the range to comply
Yeah.
and turn it back into a single family home. It was a duplex,
So you're
operated illegally.
right. You are in one part of the duplex.
Yes.
There's
Maybe-
no stove there. No range.
Yeah, maybe if Mr. Hazel can show the picture of the building from the side, it would add some clarity to it. We purchased the house as a seniors lodge.
Yeah.
Yes.
There were 6 elderly in it.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Hazel, can you show that picture?
Yeah, I have no objections to asking our clerk to put that on the screen if
Yeah, just want to show that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would just help, I think.
for everyone's quick reference, it is in the agenda package.
Right.
You would, in your, there it is, right there. So in this picture with the car, the part on the right, okay, is the part that was constructed prior to us purchasing the property, and was used as a seniors lodge. It was connected through the center bedroom of the original brick bungalow so it was all one unit.
Right.
Okay,
Never
we live in this
in the
portion.
gray portion.
We live in the gray portion.
Okay. And you cook by what?
I have a hot plate. I have a electric
Wok.
wok. I have no problems with cooking. I wish I hadn't taken my stove out, but I manage quite well.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
These changes were all to comply and follow the process. It's a 6.5-month process we've been in, an extremely stressful process.
Yeah.
we've tried to comply and follow that to get to the point where we could list this home as a complete suite, which is what it is. Essentially, everything, technically, everything past the hallway in the sketch of the bungalow is technically our bedroom or our living quarters. But it's not legally a suite unit. It's not technically a suite or a unit, but we live in it. So the disconnect, I don't know if this is appropriate time, maybe you want to ask more questions, but to cut to the chase, the disconnect is this rule, which I feel is a guideline. I mean, it's not a structural rule of the building code. It's a guideline that says that you can rent 3 bedrooms to 4 individuals. Well, I really have no big issue with that. Let's, in the broader context, if we could say that's an aggregate over the year, will you be renting to more than 4 people? No, the average over the year would probably be 2.5. There will be a couple peaks of 6. There will be instances of only 1 renting. The major problem is on the platform, if you advertise as rooms, then you have a tremendous difficulty in maintaining your schedule, because some people have no problem with renting a room and having people they don't know in the same dwelling in another room. We have a problem with that. We rent and we market traditionally as a homogeneous unit where people that rent know each other or are family members. They rent as a group. And that's what we want to continue renting as. So the rule says that you can rent to 4, maximum 3 bedrooms, and still live in technically this other portion of the building. But it also says that if you want to market it and as a complete suite, then you have to move out. Now, if it were a complete suite, you could be renting to 7 people. So it makes no sense in that sense at all.
Okay, I thank you for that. I'm just going to pause here because you're giving an interpretation of the bylaw that I don't think staff entirely agrees with. Okay, would I be right about that, Mr. Hazel? Could you now tell us the same thing, but from the point of view of staff? Please.
Thank you, your chair, through you. In essence, the bylaw would not permit this application to proceed forward based on the 3-room, 4 individual concept. The applicants have indicated to us today that there would be more renters over than 4 at this location if we were to issue a license. So for that fact, that's why it's out of scope for this permit, and that's why it was denied.
Right. So that's under 7.1.
Correct.
So if we regard their unit as, and I'm going to turn it over to the committee in a minute. I just thought some things need to be clarified here. If we regard where they're living now in that part, let's call it the gray duplex living area. If we regard that as a separate entity, would they fall under 7.2?
They would not fall under 7.2 unless they did not reside at the property.
What if it was a carriage house?
I'm not familiar with what a carriage house is.
Well, it's like a garden suite or secondary accommodation. I don't know, does Ms. Kapner-Hunt want to step in here? She suddenly popped up there.
Yeah, through you, Councillor Hutchinson. If it was a separate unit, yeah, they could fall under 7.2. In this case, it's not a legal duplex, so it's a single family dwelling.
Okay, so it's not legal, according to staff. It's not a legal duplex.
That's
Right.
correct.
And can you tell us briefly why that is?
It was never legally recognized through zoning approvals or building permits.
Ah, okay. So now I will turn it over to anybody on the committee with questions. Mr. Knox.
Question is for Mr. and Mrs. Hull. Currently, the unit is advertised at 1,200 feet, 3 beds, sleep 6.
Correct.
Okay. Have you still been operating and taking in short-term rentals during this time?
Well, we have been operating and would take in short-term rentals, except through our own selection process, we don't take everybody who applies. It just so happens that yes, until the appeal process is finished, we're operating as we normally would under the law.
And up to 6 people as advertised.
Yes, that hardly ever happens, but it's advertised that way as a complete
But
unit.
we could get a permit, we take 4. Yeah, if we could get a permit, we would take 4 and not have 6.
But it's not quite as simple as that, because I've seen the platform on Airbnb change significantly in the Kingston area over the last few months to where people are buying into that and are advertising as rooms. That's a different connotation for people who are world travelers, who are international travelers. That's totally different. It's misleading because they'll say, well, like I said before, I don't want a room. I don't want to be sharing a refrigerator. And in these times, and the bathroom facilities with people that I don't know. But that's what the connotation is. That's what the advertising rooms is, that you could rent to people unknown to each other, sharing those different rooms. That's not how we market. We bring people to Kingston who enjoy the Kingston experience and just add one more positive item to their list of things they liked about this city. So when we operated as, I mean, there's some background here, and I've researched all the materials. I've researched the 2 Zoom calls on the 15th and 16th of December. And quite obviously, we were appalled by what we saw. I came out of that with a theme, and it's not a nice theme of rolling out this bylaw. My first wish would be to have the bylaw rescinded, totally. It's full of, it was brought out with extreme animus against the public. It scared the public, and I don't know if that's what
Mr. Hull, we're not here to determine that.
Oh, I know.
The bylaw exists, and we're here to see whether you have been fairly, under the bylaw, denied a short-term rental license. That's all we can talk about. There's a number of other issues here, clearly. And we cannot address them because we don't have the authority to do that.
thanks for clarifying. Yeah, thanks
for
clarifying.
Okay. I would point out that the short-term rental bylaw process was, I can't, staff will probably tell you more, but it was at least 1.5 years long. So with opportunities for the public for input. So, anybody else from the committee? Oh, Meg, sorry, Ms. Wallace, I didn't see your hand. Go ahead.
Hi there. My internet connection froze for a second. I was just wondering if staff could clarify. So the bylaw requires that if the licensee is offering 3 bedrooms for rent, that's their license, it would be for a maximum of 4 guests, correct?
Through your chair, that is correct.
Okay, and it does not specify that those rooms must be rented individually as separate bookings, correct?
The language does state no more than 3 rooms rented individually
Individually, okay.
and sleeping accommodation for a maximum of 4.
So the bylaw is requiring the individual rental of rooms?
It doesn't permit more than 3 rooms to be individually rented
Okay.
for a maximum of 4 guests.
Okay. Does it allow for 3 rooms to be rented as one booking?
So that would apply under a single detached booking. So if someone was to book under one booking,
Okay.
and meaning the applicants are not at the property, they do not reside there. It's just a house, for example, they've rented. There's no guest restrictions under that rental.
Okay, so when someone is applying under, holds a license under 7.1, that is referring to individual bookings for individual rooms.
Correct, for a maximum of 4 guests.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else on the committee? Don't see any. I'm going to ask a couple other questions. First of all, I want to point out to Mr. and Mrs. Hall that, as I said, we are only dealing with the short-term rental bylaw here. In your submission, you indicate items that have to do with the building code, the fire code, and the Ministry of Environment. We have no authority over any of that. So that's why we are narrowly focused on the short-term rental. And there's another area, and that's planning. And that is the zoning issue. And it's been indicated by staff that this is not a legal duplex. And that's a problem, okay? That's a problem under the short-term rental bylaw. So the problem is that we cannot make decisions that are contrary to the bylaw directly. Interpretation, yes. Glossing, yes. Things about the property, if that happened to be it, yes, but not contrary to the bylaw itself. Because we don't have the authority. Council has that authority. Staff put it into, they're the how. They put it into force. So what they're saying is that, and we haven't made a decision here yet, but what they're saying is that based on what you've told them, they can't grant you a license.
Well, I understand the logistics and the letter of the law, and that's what we're trying to follow. There are people with short-term rentals that have accepted, that are in a similar situation as we are, that have accepted a license for renting bedrooms, yet are turning down people who want to rent, not known to each other, and renting instead to only families. However, there's a huge detriment to marketing your place as bedrooms. You don't get the families. You would be the last, if you were still available and everybody else was taken, then you would get approached. They would approach you and say, will you rent to a family? So we're not bending that rule. We're trying to comply with the rule, recognizing that this is the original brick bungalow built in the 50s. if it's not available to rent short-term rental, but we rent it for 25 years as a duplex illegally, the same as hundreds of other people are doing in Kingston, okay? So we feel discriminated against. Because if we turned it back, because there's pressure on council, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I just want to point out, there's pressure to provide long-term rentals. And to me, it's discriminatory to come out and openly state that you want to discourage short-term rentals in the favor of long-term rentals. We're not a socialist country. This is a private residence. I own this residence. I push back against council when they tell me what I should be renting it as.
Okay, again, I'm not here to discuss the legality or the desirability of the short-term
Lost you.
bylaw, right?
What did you just say?
That's not something
Yeah.
we can determine.
Yeah,
I know, we want to follow the law.
we
Now,
got lost.
also, we lost the video, but also, if we rent for 31 days, we're no longer, so the technicality is if you rent for 31 days, you're no longer under this bylaw. That's ridiculous, really, it is. When essentially you're doing the same business as you were before. I want a new law. This is a new industry. I want a new law which allows this to operate. Hello, are you there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
Okay,
can't
we
see
lost
you.
the video,
We
but
can't see
Yeah,
you,
no,
that's
but we
okay.
can hear you. We heard everything you said.
Okay,
okay.
that's fine.
So
I-
I follow the process. We follow the process all the way along. This is not and I realize that this would be more meaningful, the appeal, if it were something that the building department or the planning department had done wrong. I think the building and planning department are following the rules that they have in front of them. My issue is not directly with them. My issue is with this technicality, this realm of technicalities where if you are one day more, then you can do it. And that's not what we want to do. We want to continue business aside from the technicalities. So we need, I feel, a new law
Okay.
to do a new industry. We don't need Toronto telling us what to do.
We hear you, but we have no authority to do anything about it. Okay?
Not the,
For
and
this,
the appeal committee, I agree, but council does.
yes, but council already decided. And this is the bylaw they passed. After,
Council also did it, in my
A couple
opinion,
of-
prejudicially
after-
and with
yeah,
discrimination.
Mr. Hall, after a couple of years, because I just was thinking about this, at least a couple of years of work and consultation with the public. We can't satisfy everybody with every law in every way, but this is what council came up with. And it's not for even those that are councilors who say, you can't dismiss that. That's the way it is. So to me, one of the central problems here is that this is an illegal duplex. You're saying it's separate and staff are saying, no, it's not. Not under the zoning. So I think that's where you have to start. So it's just, that's a suggestion only. Anyway,
We,
else on
yeah.
the committee got questions?
we went through the,
I would point
we
out
went
there
through-
are some other issues about what, involving bed and breakfast and all that. And I suggest you sit down with staff and figure out, just how that applies to you and what you would have to do to deal with those things. You don't have to be.
we did.
No
6
one's
months.
saying that. But for instance, if you go over 4 individuals under the bylaw, you threaten to become a lodging house. That we can't allow. Not me, not staff.
No.
Bylaws,
So what are we
right?
keeping it for?
But
Well-
4 individuals would be in a lodging house. It's not a lodging house. 4 individuals would be aggregate over the year. That's
Yeah.
4 times 365. So
Hey, yeah,
technically, to me, we would be well under that,
yeah,
but we would rent it as a suite to people known to each other. That's where the
Okay.
disconnect is.
okay. Well, the disconnect is, and Mrs. Kapner Hunt, I'm gonna ask for your input here. The disconnect is that the 2 suites where you live and where the other live are not legally separate. And so that must be addressed. Otherwise,
They're not
we're
two
never going to
suites.
get everything into the right box in order to enforce this bylaw and allow you to do what you need to do. Ms. Carpenter Hunt, do you have anything to add there or corrections?
No, because it's one single family dwelling at this point, the maximum is 4 under the short-term rental bylaw. If Mr. and Mrs. Hall would like to do something outside of a 30-day rental for short-term rentals, then that's a different process.
Right. Okay. We can't go too far. I've made a couple of suggestions about how to proceed with this, but they're only suggestions and they're not decisions of this committee or even necessarily agreed to by the rest of the committee. Okay?
Can I say something? If we stay at 4 people, then would we get our permit or license?
Mr. Hazel.
Thank you for your question, Mrs. Hull. If you resubmitted your
Yes.
application and it showed compliance with the STR bylaw, and once it went through the new circulation, if it was approved by the building, planning, fire departments, then it would be approved.
Would it be approved as a suite or bedrooms?
It'd be hard to make that determination without seeing the new application to see what is being resubmitted as. We would be
Oh.
happy to meet with you guys before to go over all the questions and answers that are available so you guys can make an informed decision on which way you'd like to go.
Okay.
We drilled down through that to the nth degree with the appropriate people from the building department and planning department. And we understand that there's nothing stopping us from renting to a family of 4, but we'd have to advertise as bedrooms, and that is what we won't do. We are a suite. We're a suite and a home to where we live in the rest of the home, not a secondary suite. It's just the rest of the home. Technically, under the present rules, that's legal. And it's legal because we removed the range plug, the breakers, and the wire. We do not have a range, which constitutes a legal definition of a kitchen. We do not have a second kitchen. And I don't want to break the rules, and I'm saying this is why I'm appealing it. These rules.
Okay.
So just to come back to the bylaw, our choices are 3 bedrooms rented to a maximum of 4 people, or an entire dwelling in which the owners do not reside. And we have determined that 7.2, which is the entire dwelling where the owners do not reside, does not apply. So the license was reviewed and refused based on 7.1, which is 3 bedrooms, maximum of 4 people. Yes?
Thank you for your summary.
I understood that we could rent it to 4 people.
Excuse me,
and
excuse me, Mr. Hull. You can speak in 1 minute. Let Mr. Hazel answer the question.
Sorry,
Just
sorry.
wait. Mr. Hazel.
Thank you, your chair. Thank you for your summary. And I believe that to be correct.
Okay, so our options are, there's no other language within the bylaw. It's 3 bedrooms and 4 people, or an entire separate dwelling. That's the language. So,
Correct.
okay.
I want to ask a question here, and then Mr. Hall will come right back to you. And the problem here is it can't be a separate unit because it's not a legal duplex. Is that correct? Ms. Kapner-Hunt? That eliminates that choice.
Yeah, through you, Councillor Hutchinson, that is correct.
Okay, so the staff has tried to put you in the box where you could actually do what you want to do. But, and we understand you're not wanting to let to individual bedrooms, or your reasons under the current COVID circumstances are entirely clear. But that's also not something that we can determine, okay? So, Mr. Hull, you were going to say something earlier.
Well, the bylaw was created by the city of Kingston. And I suggest that rather than just picking the rules that are there now, make your own bylaw and the rules which are supportive of the short-term rental industry. I mean, it's such, there's really not much more I can say, because my bigger issues are outside the realm of this appeal council.
Yes, that last part is correct. And we cannot formulate and pass bylaws here. So we appreciate your opinion, but we can't do anything about it. So what we're here to do is determine whether you've been properly denied a short-term rental license, and what the interpretation of that bylaw should be for that purpose. And so I will go back to the committee. Do they have any other questions or opinions? Mr. and Mrs. Hall, do you have anything else you wish to add?
I have to add that this unit, this bungalow, is sitting here now, and if the appeal is denied and the decision is upheld, then we have a building that's not rentable to anybody. Does that really make sense? That the original brick bungalow cannot be rented to anybody? Can't be rented as a suite. That's the underlying factor. It can't be rented as a suite, according to the rules.
Wallace, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I
We're
think
forced.
Just a sec, Mr. Hall.
I think that there is an opportunity for the applicant to work with staff to revise the application so that it falls within 7.1. And you then could continue with your rental business. I think Mr. Hazel has expressed a willingness to continue to meet with you to help you achieve that revised application. And the language of the bylaw is the language of the bylaw, and that's what our committee has to work with as we consider a decision.
Thank you. I think we've been over that already with Mr. Arcand.
We met with staff for 6 months.
We've met extensively on this, and we don't want to bend the rules. The rules should be there to support what we want to do, but unfortunately it doesn't appear to be. And the only other thing is to either go on the technicality of 31 days, which we don't want to do, or bend the rules, say, yes, we'll rent to 4 people, limit it to 4 people. And instead of renting to individuals, we'll just deny all the individuals and we'll rent only to families. But our business will be decimated by that because, like I said, you're not going to get the same exposure on the host websites that tells it exactly what you are. So that's the dilemma we're facing. We don't want to bend the rules, But in order to obtain a license, I'm forced to bend the rules, and I won't do it. And we were offered that. We were offered the license. And the wording was very clear, but very from the people we're dealing with in the building and planning department and licensing department, but not to the point where telling you could do this, but it was clear what I could do. They didn't overstate, and there's nobody in any trouble in our opinion in the building or planning department. They did try to help, but it means bending the rules.
Ms. Kapner-Hunt, you've got your hand up, please.
Thank you, through Councillor Hutchinson. I just wanted to address something you said, Mr. Hall, on renting to a family of four. You don't have to rent to a family of four. It's 3 bedrooms and 4 persons. So if each bedroom has one, or one bedroom has 2 persons, you can still do 3 individual bookings for that time.
That's what we don't want to do. We do not want to rent to people unknown to each other.
Right. I think you made that clear. And I, for one, respect that. I can understand why that's probably a good decision. But Ms. Kapner-Hunt was just trying to help you out. So what you need to do, I think, is meet with Mr. Hazel and possibly Ms. Kapner-Hunt, because they're the people involved with enforcing the short-term rental bylaw. The planners are involved in the formation of that bylaw, and the building code reviews it as well. But they are not the people that have to enforce it. So you, in a way, it seems to me, maybe you, unfortunately, we're talking to the wrong department. So now I believe there were phone calls and all that sort of thing, but I think you need to realize you got to clear this up. You're going to have to talk to the right department.
Well, who do we need to talk with? Just a minute. We followed the process. We submitted the application, and senior people in the building department and the senior person in the planning department were the ones who went through this. Now, there were other people, and I mean, I don't want to really make this a complaint session, but there's lots to complain about in the rank and file of those departments, believe me, in the way we were treated. It's a 6-month stressful, very stressful ordeal, and nobody should have to go through that. We're at the point where we feel we don't even belong in this house anymore. We don't live in it. We shouldn't be here. There are people in the building and planning departments that do not have our best interests in heart, but it's not Mr. Arcand or Mr. Pickle. I can say that. They tried to help.
So I would agree with you, the committee would agree with you that those departments review the, staff can correct me, I'm wrong here, but I think I read this, review these applications. So, but they don't issue the permissions. I believe that comes out of from the licensing and enforcement department. So I'm just trying to show you a way in which you can approach it.
Okay.
Okay. So seeing no other comments, any comments from the committee? Any comments from staff? Okay, so we need a motion to either uphold or to uphold the order or not, or terms and conditions, set terms and conditions. So, Mr. Knox, do you wish to make a motion? Oh,
My motion is to uphold the order.
okay. Is there a seconder? Ms. Willis, okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you for everyone. We will now go on with the rest of the meeting. Unless the clerk has or anything. So we are at item 8A II or 2, and that concerns Jack Tuesday's Bar and Grill at 642 Progress Avenue. That item, at the request of the owner, has been deferred. That's the way the bylaw is written. We have to allow that at least once. I don't see any reason to do it, not to do it in any case, personally. But in terms of this right now, that has been deferred, and this clerk sets the new date for the appeal. And I do not know the answer at the moment. So I will move on here. Item 9 is motions. There are none. 10, notices of motion. There are none. 11, other business. Seeing none. 12, correspondence. Seeing none. 13, date of the next meeting is Monday, January the 17th, 2022, 12 p.m. Given that we have business. 14 is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn, please? Councilor McLaren, and I believe I saw Mr. Knox's hand flash there. Thanks very much. So thank you all. And so all those in favor of adjournment. Okay. Thank you to all, and thank you to staff and yeah, all those that were here today, and the clerks. Thank you. Bye for now.